Minasan, konnichiwa. Rigan sensei desu. I'm in Japan. I finished my first day at work, and I have a lot of things that I need to tell you, or that you're going to want to know before you become a teacher in Japan. As far as the English teaching goes, I absolutely loved it. Although I'm exhausted, it was probably the most fun I've had since I got here. Instead, what I'd like to focus on is all of the things I've done wrong, and some advice for how to get set up when you get here. Okay, first thing I'd recommend is have somewhere to stay when you first arrive. It's a lot easier if you know someone in the country than if you have to do it by yourself, say staying in hotels or things like that, before having permanent accommodation organised. So as you can see above me by the welcome sign, I've had someone to stay with, and I haven't actually mentioned my super secret weapon to surviving in Japan in my previous videos, which is my girlfriend Kaz, who is Japanese, and the reason I didn't sleep on the street last night. Before you go getting a girlfriend solely on the fact that she's Japanese and you have somewhere to stay, there are other ways to do it. So firstly, most English teaching jobs in Japan will have somewhere arranged for you to stay. So you pay the rent, but they'll already have it set up before you get here. The reason I don't have an apartment set up for me is I'm not working full time. I've actually never had a full-time job in my life, and it's working out really well for me, so I thought I'd just keep that rolling as I got to Japan. But if you do find a full-time job before coming to Japan, chances are you won't have to worry about finding accommodation because I'll have that set for you. If you've got a job that doesn't help you find accommodation, or if you intend to find work after coming to Japan, then the best thing I could probably recommend would be a homestay. I've actually done a homestay here before, up in Saitama last year, and if Kaz and I hadn't have met each other, that's definitely how I would have started my working holiday this year. Okay, now I'd like to focus on what I've done wrong in the last 2 days and how you can avoid it. Number 1, remember where you live. So Kaz isn't actually in Japan, she's in Australia at the moment, and so I'm staying with her sister, and last night I visited my job, even though I didn't start till today. I visited my job yesterday, and I didn't end up leaving till about 10:30 at night, by which time Kaz's sister had gone to bed, so I had to go home by myself, which was fine, except that I didn't remember where I lived. I knew the station, but I had only been shown during the day how to get there, and I took no notice whatsoever. I actually ended up calling Kaz, who's in Australia at the moment, to find out how to get from the train station to her house because I couldn't get into contact with the sister. So tip number 1, and something I've done since then, is as soon as you get to your address, save it into your phone's GPS. You will be so happy that you did that. Number 2, if you come to Japan in winter, wear warm clothes. Now I flew in from Queensland in Australia, which was 30 degrees when I left. So this is probably something that a lot of people aren't going to have a problem with. This might have just been me. But if you're leaving the house during the day and it's, say, 6 degrees or whatever, wear warmer clothes if you're not expecting to come back till nighttime, because it will drop to 0 very quickly. If you don't know where you live and you're not wearing warm clothes, you're going to have a really hard time. Number 3, sleep in. There is almost no benefit to being an early riser in Japan. It's cold, nothing is open, and generally everybody else is asleep. In Australia, I'm usually an early riser, so I get up between 5 and 6 o'clock. And yesterday I woke up at 5:30 here, and so Kaz's sister was asleep till about 8:30, and I spent the morning doing nothing. Actually, the only thing I did was try to figure out how to stop Google from searching things in Japanese. Everything I type into Google now, even if it's English, comes up with Japanese web pages. I had flown in the day before, so this was yesterday, I was up at 5:30 and I think I got back to the house at 11:30. I was asleep by 12. It was a long day. Number 4, be aware that if you're using an iPhone and you change time zones, your calendar's schedules change too. I found this one out the hard way. Yesterday I went to visit the real estate, and this was an appointment that I'd made when I was in Australia. I had written it in my calendar on the iPhone for 2 p.m, which is what we organised in Japanese time. But between Australia and Japan, or Brisbane and Japan, there's a 1 hour time delay, a time difference. And fortunately, Japan's an hour earlier. So I was meant to meet him at 2 o'clock, which was written in the email, and I wrote that in my calendar on my phone. But when I came to Japan, it moved everything 1 hour earlier. So it changed my appointment to 1 o'clock. And so instead of reading the email to see when my appointment was, I just checked my calendar. And so I ended up rocking to the train station where I was meant to meet this real estate agent at 1 o'clock instead of 2 o'clock. And so when he hadn't come by 1 o'clock, A, I was surprised that a Japanese person was late. And B, because of that, I immediately realized that I'd done something wrong. And so when I checked the email, I realized I was sitting there an hour early. So I ended up roaming the streets for an hour, exploring, pretty much wasting the time of that day. Number 5. Know how to read Japanese appliances. This was an epic fail on my part. And to be fair, I could have been a lot more prepared before I went to work. Instead of 1 hour before work, trying to figure out what the hell all that kanji means. I went to work today without an ironed shirt. Fortunately, I just bought it from Uniqlo, so it wasn't too bad. It just had sort of square lines from the folds. But if you're bringing shirts from overseas and you're about to start your first day of work, make sure they have been ironed, or find someone that can iron them for you. Or even better, just know how to read kanji a lot better than I can. Number 6, go grocery shopping as soon as you get here. So like I said before, nothing's open early in the mornings. I think the earliest the supermarkets are open at about 9:30 or 10 o'clock in the morning. If you're up early like me, then all you've got to eat is what's in your house. Your only other option is the convenience stores and eat whatever they have. So if you like convenience store food, you'll love it. But if not, do your grocery shopping, because you will starve in the mornings. Because I've been working for the past 2 days in the afternoons, pretty much from 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock when I leave the house, I haven't had time to grocery shop. So the only thing I've eaten here for the only thing I've eaten in the last 3 days is macadamias, which I brought from Australia deliberately because they're hard to find in Japan. Onigiri, which is the rice balls, which I've been getting from the convenience store. Daifuku. And tonight, after work, for a bit of variety, I've eaten like 7 bananas. So do your grocery shopping or you will starve. It was good. Number 7. Don't lose your passport. Now luckily, everyone in Japan's pretty nice, and if you lose things here, I've heard incredible stories of losing things here and them getting returned. And for me, it was my passport. Yes, literally the day after I flew into Japan, well, my first day in Japan, I lost my passport. I left it in the back of the real estate man's car. And I didn't actually know about it. The first time I realized I had lost my passport, he actually sent me an email saying that you left your passport in my car. And then after I checked all my pockets, I realized he was right. And that is all I have for now. So all of those were all not pointless, but not really serious things to worry about. As far as, becoming an English teaching, it's not really the important focus. I really just sort of wanted to put a video up there to cover those sorts of things that I've experienced in my first couple of days of being here. So hopefully it's been of some help to everybody. But I've got the weekend off now, so I've been pretty much flat out. That's why I haven't really got a lot of key information. I haven't set up a bank account or a phone number or anything like that. But I've got this weekend off. If you've got anything specific that you want to ask me or get me to post a video about, just let me know in the comments below. And I've got 3 days off now, so I'm really exhausted at the moment. But this weekend I'll have some time to put some stuff together. So if you've got any questions, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll get working on whatever you want me to. And I'll be a lot more upbeat in future videos as soon as I get a little bit of a sleep. I think I've made it sound like I've had all these terrible things happen to me, when in truth it has been the most amazing 3 days ever. I just cannot express it because I have 0 energy left. I will hopefully be back to my usual Genki self in future videos. Until then, arigatou gozaimashita. Ja, matte ne.